The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with light and noise. The walls shimmered with the colors of distant stars. Thousands of alien voices echoed across the marble floor. Every seat was taken. Every eye was fixed on the small circle. At the center, where the representative of Earth stood alone, Ambassador Elena Ward looked calm, but inside her heart was heavy. Around her stood the council leaders of more than 100 species, each one older than humanity itself. Some had skin of silver, some had eyes that glowed like fire, and all of them were watching her as if she was something dangerous, something wild. The High Speaker of the Council raised his thin hand, and silence fell. He was a tall creature with glassy blue skin and a voice that vibrated like thunder. His words carried across the chamber with cold judgment. "Humanity of Sul," he said, "you stand accused of crimes against the peace of the galaxy. You are charged with aggression, violence, and the uncontrolled creation of weapons beyond moral reason. How do you plead?" Elena looked up. She did not flinch. Her voice was clear and calm. "Humanity pleads not guilty," she said. "Humanity pleads survival." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Delegates slammed their claws and fists. On their tables, accusations filled the air. The High Speaker raised his hand again. Silence returned. The evidence was shown. Holograms filled the air above the chamber. Battles where human ships fought pirates to protect colonies. Wars against invaders who had attacked first, but the Council showed only one side. They showed the destruction, the fear, the fire. They did not show the mercy. One alien shouted, "You turned planets into ash." Another hissed, "You build soldiers that do not feel pain." Another cried, "You destroy entire species for victory." Elena waited until the noise faded. "We fought because we were attacked," she said. "We built weapons because no one came to help us. We fought for our right to live, not to conquer." The High Speaker narrowed his glowing eyes. "You speak of defense, but your kind spreads too fast, too far. You colonize without permission. You take worlds meant for others. You break the balance of peace. Humanity cannot be trusted." Elena took a deep breath. She knew this trial was not about truth. It was about fear. The Council feared what humanity might become. They feared a race that grew stronger with every challenge. "You fear us because we change," she said. "Because we adapt. Because you cannot control us." The words hung in the air. A ripple of silence spread through the chamber. The High Speaker stood. "You leave us no choice. Humanity will be exiled from all Council space. The Sol system and all colonies will be cut off from the galactic network. You are to be banished beyond the outer rim, effective immediately." The words struck like a blade. Gasps filled the chamber. Some of the smaller races looked away, afraid to meet Elena's eyes. The sentence meant isolation. It meant the death of trade, of technology, of communication. Earth would be alone in the dark. Elena lowered her head for a moment. Then she looked up again, and her voice carried through the chamber stronger than before. "You think you are punishing us," she said. "You think exile will break us. But you forget what. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day. We are the survivors of ice and fire and war. You cannot banish what refuses to die." The High Speaker frowned and waved his hand. Guards of metal and light stepped forward to escort her away. But Elena raised one hand before they could move. She looked at the gathered council members. "One last time, you will miss us," she said. "And one day, when your perfect peace begins to crumble, when your enemies rise and your stars burn, you will call for help, and you will remember the ones you cast into the dark." The chamber filled with noise again, shouts of anger, fear, confusion. Elena was taken away. The doors closed behind her with a heavy sound that echoed like thunder outside the council hall. She looked up at the stars. The night of exile had begun. Earth had been sentenced. The humans would lose contact with every world, every ally, every resource. But as her ship left the station and began its journey home, she saw the blue light of Earth glowing in the distance. And for the first time she smiled. She knew humanity would not fall. They would adapt. They would survive. They would rise again. Years passed. The Council forgot the name of Earth. They called it the Lost World. They told their young that humanity was a mistake that had been erased from history. But in the dark corners of space, strange signals began to whisper across the void, old human code, repeated again and again. A simple phrase that no one could trace. We are still here. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, a fleet began to wake up, ships' long-hidden engines cold for centuries. Lights flickered across their hulls like the beating of a heart. Humanity had been banished, but they were not gone. They were waiting. The galaxy thought exile would end them. Instead, it gave them time. Time to build, time to grow, time to remember what it meant to be human. The trial of Earth had ended, but the real story of humanity had only just begun, far beyond the edge of mapped space. A cold sun burned weakly over a dead world. The planet had no name in the Council's records. It was erased long ago, but to the humans who lived there, it was called Haven. The air was thin, the soil red and dry, yet it became the cradle of a new beginning. The forgotten fleet slept beneath its surface, buried in ice and rock like ancient bones. The ships were old war relics from humanity's final battles before exile. Their hulls were scarred black, their engines frozen in silence. For 100 years, they had not moved, only waiting for the signal commander. Elias Kane stood in the control room deep below the planet's crust. The room was lit by the soft glow of failing lights. His uniform was patched and worn, but his eyes burned with the same fire that once lit the stars above Earth. Reports came in one by one. Small colonies across the exile zone were finally connecting again. Signals pulsing through the void. Human voices, long silent, now spoke across the network. Once more, Kane listened to them with pride. These were the descendants of the Banished. Their ancestors had been thrown away, but they refused to fade. Engineer Mira. Holt approached her console and spoke quietly. The last fusion core is stable, she said. The Arc of Dawn can wake up any time you give the order. Commander Kane turned to the viewing window. Through layers of rock and metal, he could see the faint outline of the Arc of Dawn, the flagship of the old fleet. It was a massive carrier built during the final years of war, built to carry millions of lives across the stars, built for survival. For decades, their people had hidden and rebuilt. They mined dead moons, harvested asteroids, and learned to create their own food and fuel. They built new machines from scraps of old technology. They were no longer soldiers or refugees. They were builders, dreamers, survivors. Small screen blinked beside him, displaying a message from a nearby colony. The words were simple but powerful. Earth endures. Kane smiled and whispered back, humanity endures. Then he gave the order to wake the fleet. Sirens echoed through the caverns. Steam hissed from vents. Power surged through the ancient cables. The Arc of Dawn opened its eyes for the first time in a century. Engines roared awake. Shields activated. Lights spread across the ship's surface like dawn breaking over a sleeping city. All across Haven, smaller ships began to stir. Fighters, bombers, transports, freighters, each one marked with the old blue insignia of Earth. A white circle with a single star inside. Mira looked up at the main screen. It showed the sky above the planet clouds parting as if the world itself welcomed their return. For so long, they had been silent ghosts. Now, they would be seen again, Commander. Kane opened the main communication channel to every human settlement across the exile zone. His voice was calm, but carried strength that reached every listener. "This is Commander Elias Kane of the Ark of Dawn," he said. "The time of waiting is over. Humanity rises again." Cheers erupted through the halls of the underground base. People hugged one another. Soldiers saluted, engineers cried quietly at their consoles. They had lived through generations of darkness and fear. But now, there was light. Again, while the fleet prepared to launch, Mira brought Kane new data. A faint signal had been detected from deep space. It was not human code. It came from a distant system near the Council border. She said it matches the frequency of Council patrols. "They might be watching us." Kane stared at the screen. The Council had forgotten them, but now their eyes might turn again toward the dark. He knew what that meant. It meant the return of the same fear that once led to their exile. He walked slowly to the viewport where he could see the fleet rising through the dust of Haven. Thousands of engines flared blue. The Ark of Dawn led them upward into the black sea of stars. "Send no reply to that signal," he said. "Not yet. We are not ready to reveal ourselves. Let them sleep a little longer." Mira nodded. She watched as the ships formed patterns in the sky. The formation was ancient, the same used during the last defense of Earth. It was more than a symbol, it was a promise. Hours later, the fleet was fully operational. The first hyperspace engine test began. The massive ark shuddered as power built through its core. Lightning danced across its hull. The planet trembled under the energy wave. For a moment, everything went white. Then silence when the sensors cleared. The ship was gone. The Ark of Dawn had vanished into hyperspace. A successful jump for the first time in over a century. Cheers filled the command center. Humans across Haven celebrated, but in the distance, another signal appeared, this one faint and chilling. A burst of encrypted code written in an ancient human dialect. It read, "We found something." Commander Kane frowned. He knew the message came from one of their scout ships exploring far beyond the rim. They were looking for old ruins, ancient relics of forgotten civilizations, but something about the signal felt different. There was fear in it. He turned to Mira. "Prepare a response team. We are going to find out what they discovered." The fleet moved quietly through the darkness. Every jump took them farther from Haven, deeper into the unknown. The stars grew brighter. The air inside the ship grew tense. Everyone could feel it. Something was waiting for them out there. In the shadow of the void, a forgotten empire was stirring, and at its center, a secret older than the Council itself waited to be found. The humans of the forgotten fleet did not know it yet, but their return would shake the entire galaxy. Their exile had ended, their silence was over, humanity had awakened again, and the galaxy would soon remember the name of Earth. The night side of the planet, Zareth, burned silently. In the void, its cities were reduced to ashes, its skies thick with black smoke. The Galactic Council sent rescue fleets, but found only wreckage and silence. No survivors, no distress calls, no trace of the enemy. The only clue left behind was strange. Burn marks across the ruins, shaped like wings of iron. At the Council headquarters, panic grew. Each destroyed colony was closer to the core worlds, and every report said the same thing. No warning, no signal, just death. The attackers came from the dark. Between the stars, they struck fast and disappeared before sensors could lock on Rin. Varel sat alone in her small office, watching the recordings again and again. She was once a Council investigator during the time of the human exile. Unlike most, she had always believed that banishing Earth was a mistake. Humanity had been dangerous, yes, but they were also the only species that had ever fought for others when war came. Now, as she watched the footage, she saw something she could not ignore. On frame, a fragment of metal drifted past the camera. It bore an ancient symbol, a white circle with a single blue star inside. Her heart stopped. She knew that mark. It was human. She sent the footage for analysis and waited in silence. When the computer confirmed her fear. She whispered softly, "They are back." Meanwhile, far beyond the council, borders the Ark of Dawn moved through deep space like a silent blade. The ship's crew worked with precision, scanning every signal, every distortion. Commander Ildeus Kane stood on the bridge, his expression hard and focused. The message they had received still echoed in his mind. "We found something." Their scout ship Helios had gone missing after sending that transmission. The coordinates pointed to a dead system once used by ancient mining colonies. When the Ark arrived there, they found the planet cracked open like an egg. Massive tunnels spread beneath the surface, glowing faintly with unknown energy. Mira. Holt adjusted the scanners. "The energy readings are unstable," she said. "It looks like some kind of old reactor, but older than anything human or Council." Kane nodded. "Launch a survey team." Small dropships descended into the tunnels. The air was heavy with dust and static. Ancient machines lined them. Walls, each one larger than a city. Their designs were strange, almost human, yet older, far older symbols carved into the metal glowed as the humans approached. Then the first sign of the Helios appeared. The wreck of the scout ship lay half buried. In the tunnel, its hull torn apart from the inside, the crew was gone. Only the black box remained. Kane listened to its final recording. The voice was broken by static. "We found a chamber full of bodies, not dead, not alive. Something moved inside the walls." Then silence followed by screams. Suddenly every light in the tunnel flickered. The machines began to hum, one by one, their cores lit up. Blue. Mira shouted for retreat, but it was too late. A shockwave burst from the center of the ruins. The tunnels collapsed. The humans barely escaped back to their dropships. When they returned to the Ark of Dawn, they carried a single piece of recovered data. A map. It showed thousands of similar sites scattered across the galaxy, each one hidden deep under Council territories. Kane looked at the glowing map and realized what it meant. The Council had known about these ruins for centuries and had kept them secret. While the humans studied the data, Rin Varel presented her findings to the Council. Her words filled the chamber with fear and anger. She said, "The attackers bear human insignia. Their technology is far beyond anything they should have. Humanity was banished 100 years ago. How could they have done this?" The High Speaker glared down at her. "You will not spread such lies," he said. "Humanity is gone, erased. If we start believing ghosts, every shadow will look like an enemy." But Rin refused to stay silent. She placed the recording of the metal fragment on the table. "Look at it," she said. "The symbol is clear. The lost ones have returned." Her warning was dismissed and her access revoked. She left the chamber in silence, but her mind was burning. She knew the truth, and she would find proof, no matter the cost. Back on the Ark, Mira analyzed the strange energy signatures from the ruins. The readings showed traces of old human tech merged with something alien. She said, "Commander, this technology is not just ancient, it is alive." Kane watched the readings change and pulse like a heartbeat. He felt the same unease that the Helios crew must have felt before they died. Humanity had found something powerful, something that should have stayed buried. He turned to his crew. "We keep this secret," he said. "The Council cannot know about this yet. If they find out, they will come for us again, and this time they will not banish us. They will try to erase us completely." The Ark of Dawn continued through the void, its engines burning with renewed purpose. They were no longer just survivors, they were explorers of forbidden knowledge, seekers of truths the galaxy had tried to hide. But across the stars, the Council's fleets were already moving, following faint traces of human signals toward the outer rim. The hunt for the lost ones had begun, and deep within the ruins of the dead world, something ancient awakened, A voice older than memory whispered through the dark, repeating the words of humanity's defiance. "We are still here." The shadow beyond the stars was no longer silent. It had a heartbeat. It had a name: humanity. The Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. The air in the Grand Chamber was thick with fear. Reports arrived every hour. Entire patrol fleets lost contact with the outer colonies. Broken. A single phrase appeared in the fragments. "Of their black boxes, the lost ones have returned." Rin Varel stood at the edge of the chamber again. She had warned them, but no one listened. Now the truth burned across the stars. She showed the new evidence on the hollow screen, images of massive ships, moving in formation, each one black as night, with markings of old human design. The council fell silent, watching as the ships moved with impossible speed and discipline. The High Speaker spoke at last. His voice was heavy with unease. "It cannot be. No exiled species could have built fleets like this. The resources alone would take empires to create." Rin faced him calmly. "They had time." She said, "You gave them a century of silence. You gave them isolation. And in that silence, they built their own empire." Far beyond the Council's reach, the Arc of Dawn, and her fleet emerged from hyperspace near the edge of a bright nebula. Thousands of ships followed behind her, battle cruisers, carriers, freighters, and colony vessels. The forgotten children of Earth had come together again. Commander Elias Kane stood on the bridge, watching the stars unfold before them. For a moment, the entire fleet floated in silence. Then a single transmission was sent through every ship in the armada. The voice of Kane rang out clear and steady. "For 100 years we lived in darkness," he said. "For 100 years they called us monsters and banished us beyond their walls. But we did not die. We built, we learned, we rose. And now we return. Not for vengeance, but for truth. Humanity endures." Cheers filled the ships across the fleet. The people who had once been called exiles now carried pride and purpose. The first human flag in a century was raised on the command deck, a simple white star on a field of black mirror. Holt turned to Kane with a report. "The path to the Council border is clear." She said, "No fleets detected. The nearest system belongs to the Trana Confederacy. Should we make contact?" Kane nodded. "But remember," he said, "we are not conquerors. We offer peace first. But if they fire, we finish it." The human fleet moved into Council space. The Trana outpost detected them immediately and sent a warning to the capital. Ships scrambled to intercept. Kane waited calmly as a dozen alien vessels approached. Their leader, a four-armed reptilian commander, appeared on the screen. His voice was filled with fear. "Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Kane answered, "We are from Earth. We seek dialogue, not war." The alien hesitated. His eyes widened at the name Earth. He whispered the word like a curse before cutting the transmission. Moments later, his fleet opened fire. Energy blasts streaked across space. Shields flared, but held. Kane gave no further warning. "Return, fire," he said. The first battle of humanity's return lasted less than 5 minutes. The human ships moved like living machines, precise and unstoppable. The Trana fleet was shattered, their weapons useless against human armor. As the last enemy ship drifted powerless, Kane ordered ceasefire, rescue their survivors, he said. "Show them who we are." When the smoke cleared, the message from the human flagship was broadcast across all frequencies to every Council world. "We are not here for war. We are here for what was ours." The message spread faster than light. Entire worlds listened in silence, remembering the stories of the exiled race. The Council called them dangerous. The younger species called them myths. Now they were real, and they were back. On the Council homeworld, panic turned into strategy. Massive fleets were prepared. Diplomats sent pleas for peace, even as generals planned for war. The High Speaker watched the message again and again. His voice trembled as he whispered, "They survived, Rin." Varel studied the human broadcast carefully, her heart filled with both fear and hope. The human commander's words were calm, not vengeful. She saw mercy in his actions after the battle. The Council would not see it that way. They would see only a threat. She knew another war was coming, and she had to choose a side back in deep space. The Ark of Dawn continued forward, passing through the remains of the defeated fleet. Every human on board felt the same cold fire. They did not cheer, they did not celebrate. They only worked in silence, knowing this was just the beginning. Mira watched the stars and spoke softly, "They will come for us again." Kane nodded, "I know. And this time they will bring everything they have. But we will not hide. We will show them what humanity has become." The fleet began to move toward the central systems. Sensors picked up hundreds of enemy signals gathering ahead. Entire armadas preparing to block their way. Humanity was outnumbered 100-1. Yet no one on the Ark showed fear. They had been exiled and forgotten. They had built an empire in the dark. They had learned the secrets of the ancients, and now they were ready. As the stars burned bright around them, Kane gave one final order before the fleet. "Advanced, open the channel to all Council frequencies." When the link opened, his voice echoed across the galaxy. "To every world that hears me," he said, "humanity does not seek your destruction. We seek our place among the stars. You called us exiles. You called us dangerous. You were right, we are dangerous to those who seek to chain us again." The human fleet ignited its engines, thousands of ships lighting up the void like dawn breaking after endless night. The return of the exiles had begun, and the UBA galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy was on fire again. Council fleets moved like storms through the void. Hundreds of ships joined their lines from every allied world. The High Speaker declared a defense initiative calling humanity a cosmic threat and an enemy of peace. Yet deep down, every commander who faced them knew the truth. Humanity was not the same frightened race that had once stood trial. They were something far greater. In the command hall of the Ark of Dawn commander, Elias Kane stood before a wall of holoscreens. Each one displayed reports from the front lines. Skirmishes were spreading faster than light. Some council worlds surrendered without a fight. Others resisted until they were reduced to ash. Mira Holt stood beside him, pale and silent. She whispered, "They keep coming." Kane nodded. "The Council cannot afford to lose control. If they admit they were wrong, the whole order will collapse." A young officer turned from his console. "Command a new enemy fleet. Detected approaching from Sector 9. Their numbers are overwhelming." Kane studied the data. The enemy formation covered half the star system, yet his expression did not change. "Prepare the shield network and bring the Vanguard online," he said. "We will hold them here." Outside in the dark, the human fleet began to move. Ships arranged in perfect precision, forming a glowing wall of light. Energy surged through the Ark's massive reactors. Human engineers had fused old Earth designs with ancient, alien technology recovered from the ruins. In Part 3, the result was power beyond anything the Council understood. The first wave of enemy ships appeared firing before they even made contact. Blinding beams struck the human shields, but failed to break them. The Ark answered with a single shot. A beam of blue light tore through space, slicing 3 enemy cruisers apart in an instant. The shockwave rippled for thousands of kilometers. The Council commanders hesitated. Their sensors could not even register the energy signature. Inside the Council's command core, panic spread faster than reason. Reports of destroyed fleets poured in. Some suggested peace talks, but the High Speaker shouted them down. "There can be no peace with monsters." He declared, "Humanity must be erased before they erase us." Rin Varel watched in silence from the back of the chamber. Her faith in the Council was gone. She remembered the words of the human ambassador at the trial. "You will miss us." Those words haunted. Her now humanity had returned not to conquer, but to survive again. She left the chamber before the next vote and made her way to the archives. She had access to the oldest restricted files there. She searched records about ancient ruins like the ones humanity found. A strange pattern emerged. Thousands of years before the Council even existed, another civilization had ruled the stars. They called themselves the Architects, and their genetic signature matched humanity. Rin froze as the realization. But the humans were not invaders. They were the descendants of the first builders of the galaxy. The Council had known and buried the truth. She copied the files and hid them in a secure drive. If humanity was destroyed, their truth would still live. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the war reached its peak. Massive fleets clashed near the binary stars of Vora space. The light from the explosions painted the void red and gold. The Arc of Dawn led the counterstrike. Human marines boarded enemy ships not to kill, but to disable their cores. They captured thousands of prisoners and treated them with care. Rumors spread through the enemy ranks that the humans fought with honor. Not hatred. Mira stood beside Kane on the bridge. Her voice was low and steady. "We can win this war," she said. "But should we?" Kane looked out at the burning stars. "If we destroy them, we become the monsters they said we were. We win nothing." Then a signal arrived from Rin Varel. She had risked everything to send her message. It contained the lost data from the archives. Kane and Mira watched the holograms unfold. Ancient human symbols appeared blue and glowing. They saw towering cities floating above alien worlds and the words written in the old Terran language. "We built the stars." Mira stared in disbelief. "This means the Council was afraid of us because we are their origin." Kane nodded. "They erased the truth to rule, but truth cannot stay buried forever." He turned to his officers. "Prepare a broadcast. Send this data to every corner of the galaxy. The people deserve to know who we are." As the human message spread, entire fleets stopped fighting. Soldiers on both sides froze as the truth filled their screens. Humanity were the first architects, the creators of the technologies. The Council used to rule the foundation of everything they had built. For the first time since the war began, the Council fleets hesitated. The High Speaker screamed for them to continue the attack, but half of his armada ignored the order. Some even turned away. Kane watched from the Ark's bridge. The battle slowed. The stars were quiet again. He spoke into the open channel. "Humanity did not return for revenge. We returned for truth, and we will defend it with our lives." But peace did not come easily. The High Speaker refused to yield. He gathered his last fleet and moved toward the human flagship, shouting that he would cleanse the galaxy of the exiled race. Kane looked at Mira and said, "Prepare the final shield. We end this now." The two fleets collided. In blinding light, every ship fired at once. The void shook. The Ark's engines roared brighter than the stars around it. When the light faded, the enemy was gone. The Council's last fleet had been wiped away. Humanity stood victorious, but the cost was high. Countless worlds burned, countless lives lost. Kane looked at the silent bridge around him and whispered, "This was the war that should never have been." The Arc of Dawn drifted quietly among the wreckage. Mira turned from the viewport and said, "Softly, what happens now?" Kane answered, "Now we rebuild. Now we show them who we truly are." And far away on the Council homeworld, Rin Varel prepared to reveal the truth to the galaxy. She would tell them everything about the architects, about the lies, and about the people who came back from exile. The story of humanity was not over. It was only beginning again. The war had ended, but the galaxy was silent. The once mighty fleets of the Council were gone. Their worlds stood in ruins, and their pride broken. Across the stars, whispers spread about the truth of the exiles. The humans were not monsters or invaders. They were the descendants of the first architects, the builders of Lighton, the Ark of Dawn. Commander Elias Kane sat in the observation deck staring at the endless black of space, the glow of dying stars reflected on the glass. His voice was quiet when he spoke to Mira Holt beside him. "We won the war, but peace feels heavier than victory." Mira nodded softly because the truth changed. Everything, the broadcast of the ancient records, had reached every world. Every species now knew that humanity carried the blood and knowledge of the first civilization. The technology the Council used, the power that built their empire, all came from human ancestors. The lie had lasted thousands of years. On the Council, homeworld chaos ruled. The High Speaker was gone, his ship destroyed in the final battle. The remaining leaders fought among themselves about what to do. Some demanded surrender, others wanted revenge, but most were lost without the power that once guided them in the shadows of the broken council hall. Rin Varel stood before the ancient archive. The door that had been locked for centuries now stood open. The walls were covered with glowing symbols, as if the building itself was alive. She activated the core system, and a voice echoed around her, soft and human. "You have awakened the memory of the architects who seeks the truth." Rin took a deep breath and spoke. "I seek to understand what they were and why the Council feared them." The light grew brighter and holograms filled the air, scenes of ancient cities floating above oceans of stars. Towers reaching beyond the clouds, beings that looked almost human, guiding entire races toward knowledge and peace. The voice spoke again. "The architects created life and freedom, but power breeds fear. The younger races turned on their makers and erased their name from history. Humanity was the last of them, scattered to a small blue world where they forgot who they were." Rin watched in silence. The truth was clear. Humanity was not the danger. The danger had always been the fear of those who could not understand them. She sent the full archive to Kane and Mira on the Ark. When they received the data, the entire ship gathered in the main hall to watch it play. The air was still as the holograms showed the faces of the first humans, the creators of the stars, the bringers of fire. Mira looked at Kane. "This is our proof," she said. "We were never the outcasts. We were the beginning." Kane stood and faced the crowd. His voice carried through the halls, loud and steady. "We are not the exiles anymore. We are the descendants of the first light. The truth is our weapon and our promise. We will rebuild the galaxy, not as rulers but as guides." The crowd erupted in applause, but it was not the cheer of conquest. It was hope. In the weeks that followed, humanity sent fleets not for war but for aid. They brought food and medicine to shattered worlds. They repaired power grids and restored water to dying planets. The same hands that once fought now healed. Rin Varel joined them, leaving the ruins of the Council behind. When she stepped aboard the Ark of Dawn, the crew saluted her. Kane smiled and said, "You were right from the beginning. Humanity never needed the Council. The galaxy did. Together they began a mission to unite the broken systems. They called it Project Dawn. A new order where every species would have a voice not ruled by fear, but by truth. But even as hope spread, there were those who refused to accept it. Small pockets of resistance formed. Former council officers who still hated humanity. They whispered in the dark that the exiles would rise as tyrants. They plotted to destroy the Ark and erase the truth again. One night, as the fleet passed through the nebula of Vora's Veil, sensors detected movement. A cluster of ships. Hiding in the clouds, Kane ordered red alert, weapons charged, shields up. Within moments, the enemy fleet emerged, firing without warning. The first blasts hit hard, shaking the Ark. Mira shouted, We cannot destroy them without losing civilians on the colony ships, Kane answered. We will not destroy, we will protect. He gave orders to block the enemy with their shields, absorbing the attacks until reinforcements could arrive. The humans fought not with anger, but restraint. Their goal was no longer domination, but defense. When the last enemy ship was disabled, Kane opened a channel to them. This war is over, he said. We will not answer hate with hate. Lay down your arms or be left behind. The enemy commander, silent at first, finally lowered his weapon, he whispered. We were wrong about you, Kane replied. You were wrong about us all. The battle ended without blood. Humanity had shown the galaxy what power truly meant, the strength to choose peace over revenge. As the ships drifted under the quiet stars, Mira looked at Kane and said, Do you think they will ever trust us? Kane answered, They will have to, because we are the only ones who still believe the galaxy can be saved. Far in the distance, the rebuilt beacons of the old architect network began to shine one by one, like stars being reborn. The message from the humans spread across them, a promise carved in light. We were never your mistake. We were your beginning. And so the truth of the ancients became the foundation of a new era, humanity. No longer the exiled children of Earth, but the keepers of the stars. The galaxy had feared them once. Now it looked to them for hope. Years had passed since the Council fell. The galaxy had changed more than anyone believed possible. The name of humanity was no longer spoken in fear, but in respect. They were called the Starborn, the heirs of the architects, the ones who brought balance where chaos once ruled. Commander Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Ark of Dawn, now serving as the flagship. Of the Starborn fleet around him were ships of many species, all united under the same banner. Each bore the golden emblem of the rising sun, a symbol of hope, born from the ashes of exile Mira. Holt stood beside him, watching the stars flicker through the viewport. The colonies are thriving, she said softly. The shattered worlds of the old council have joined the alliance, trade routes are open again, and children from 100 races study together in our academies. Kane nodded quietly. It feels strange, doesn't it? We were once hunted, now we teach the galaxy how to live, but even peace carried shadows. In the dark edge of the Perseus Rift, strange signals were detected, unknown energy surges that twisted the laws of space. The scientists, who called it the Echo, a pulse that seemed older than even the architects themselves. The Starborn Council gathered to discuss the discovery. Leaders from every world filled the great chamber. Their faces serious as Mira presented the data. The Echo repeats. Every 12 hours, it's not natural. It's a pattern, a message. Kane studied the projection. The tone was too deliberate, too exact. It wasn't chaos, it was communication. Rin Varel, the former council diplomat, now humanity's greatest ally, stood and spoke. The legends of the architects mentioned something like this: the final gate, the point where all creation began and where it could end. She looked at Kane with calm eyes. Maybe this is what they left behind. A test. Kane understood the weight of her words. If the architects had left a test, it could be dangerous or divine. Humanity had faced exile, war, and truth, but now they faced the unknown. The Ark of Dawn led the fleet toward the rift. Space itself seemed alive. The colors shifted around them like living storms. Waves of blue and silver energy danced across the hull. Mira whispered, "It's beautiful, but it feels like it's watching us." As they reached the center, the echo grew stronger. It wasn't sound anymore. It was thought, a voice, speaking directly into their minds. "Welcome, Starborn. You have awakened the gate of creation. Prove your worth or be unmade." The fleet shuddered as reality bent around them. Ships flickered between dimensions. Some crews screamed, others prayed. Kane gripped the command rail and shouted to his crew, Hold the line. Remember who we are. We are not here to conquer. We are here to understand." The voice echoed again. "Your kind once betrayed the light. Why should you inherit it now?" Cain closed his eyes and spoke not to the stars, but to the very essence of the universe, because we learned from our exile, because power without compassion destroys, because we choose mercy when we could choose war. That is why we are worthy. Silence followed. Then the storm broke apart. Light flooded the bridge and the echo faded, leaving only peace. The voice spoke one final time. "Then rise, Starborn. The light that built the stars is yours once more. Use it well or lose it forever." When the glow faded, the fleet found itself before a vast construct larger than any world, a ring of pure energy orbiting a sun made of white fire. Data streamed across every screen. It was the heart of the architects, the source of all their power, lost for ages, and now awakened by humanity. Rin whispered, "The architects were right to trust you, Cain. Humanity was never meant to rule. They were meant to guide." Cain looked at her and smiled. "Then let's guide them all." The Ark of Dawn transmitted a message across every channel. Every world, every colony, every ship heard the voice of Commander Cain. "This is the dawn of a new age. We are no longer the exiles of Earth or the warriors of vengeance. We are the Starborn, the keepers of light, the builders of tomorrow. Across the galaxy, beacons lit up like stars being born again. The once divided races stood together under one name. The era of fear was gone, replaced by unity. The Starborn alliance stretched from the edge of the Orion belt to the dark heart of Andromeda, but far beyond. Even that light, something stirred. A shadow beyond the rim, a force older than the architects themselves, watched the newborn alliance with silent interest, as if the universe was not done. Testing them, Mira turned to Cain. "Do you think this is the—" And Cain smiled faintly. "No, Mira. This is just the beginning." As the Ark of Dawn sailed through the sea of stars, its engines left trails of golden light across the void. The music of the galaxy rose again. The exiles who had once been cast out had become the guardians of all creation. Humanity had not only survived, they had become the light that would guide eternity.